Hello and welcome to Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. And I am thrilled, honored, and grateful to have with me today Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street. Jordan is an American-made entrepreneur, salesperson, stockbroker, author, motivational speaker, and the star in The Wolf of Wall Street. Everyone knows who this guy is. He's sold nearly $1 billion worth of stock in the market, managed over 1,000 salespeople at Stratton Oakmont, and is one of the world's most infamous salespeople. Jordan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure.
Awesome, man. Well, it took us like a year and a half to get this interview. We're thrilled to be sitting down. And today we want to make this a never before seen interview exclusively about sales.
Okay.
You have a million sales secrets, a million sales strategies that you've learned, from selling ice cream on the beach with your buddy, to going into stock market, to selling at Stratton Oakmont, to growing 1,000-person sales team. And, when we ask the audience, hey, we're interviewing Jordan, what do you want to learn? And they're like, hey, I want to learn, how did he get started in sales? What were his secrets? What did he learn at the stockbroker before starting his own firm? How did he start generating any sales at his own firm, to hiring 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people? So let's just kick things off with a quick background on how you got started in sales, and we'll go throughout your career, all the sales secrets along the way.
So my first formal sales job was selling meat and seafood door to door. I've been selling since I'm probably old enough to talk, and I had a paper out, was knocking on doors, and learned about the power of an effective smile and a greeting, and also being able to handle rejection. I knocked on doors after snowstorms when I was 10 years old, shoveled people's driveways. I answered the phone with incoming calls for magic shows. I had my own magic show when I was 14, right? And then I hit it big for the first time when I was 16, selling ices on the beach, blanket to blanket, right? But all of that was really more about hard work, ingenuity, lack of a fear of rejection. The strategy side of the equation for me really revealed itself when I was in the meat and seafood business. And that was the first time I truly understood that I had a gift for selling. I always knew I was a good talker and stuff, right? And I wanted to be rich and wanted to be an entrepreneur. It's a very different thing than, are you actually talented naturally as a closer? And when I went out there on my first day in the field, after I went through a really crappy 1 or 2 day training program with this meat company, and I went out to the first day, and I just shattered the records at the company, shattered them. And the very first pitch I made on my own, when I opened up my mouth to speak and the words just flowed perfectly, I couldn't believe it myself. I was like, wow, I'm really good at this. And the first woman bought some massive amount of meat, and first day I sold the whole truck out. Anyway, so that was really when it started right there. So they're very different. I think people miss that distinction in terms of like the difference between hard work, um, being able to handle rejection, and then actually being a good closer. They're different things.
And when you were selling the meat and seafood at that time, right? What were you doing differently than everyone else that was doing it? If you could
Well,
go back to that.
at the time, I thought for sure that I had some natural advantages. That I was very young and clean cut looking. So I'd go as door to door, a lot of ladies, right? Men too, but I was very unthreatening looking. So like, me going to knock on someone's door at a big house versus some other person. So it's a natural physical advantage I have. I'm not a big guy at the door, right? So I'm sort of like a little stealthy. I thought that was good. I certainly had a great smile. I knew how to make eye contact. And if there was one thing above all, I would say it was tonality. Um, and I realized that I just sounded fucking good.
Yep.
Like I sounded good. And I had a very, very powerful tool of being able to tie words together better than anyone else I knew. That was always the case, that I had a natural gift of language. So when I combine those together, of the ability to pull words out of, like, I just seem to always know what to say, how to say it, when to say it. Together, that led for an incredibly powerful communication platform for me. I didn't have a name for what I was doing or even thought about it much. It was a natural, innate ability. My brain had been wired a certain way through all my experiences I had. I guess I was born a certain way. And when I opened up my mouth to speak in any situation of influence, I always knew exactly what to say, exactly how to make eye contact, exactly how to shake hands, and never thought twice about it. And every situation I had been in, I had been, from that moment forward, massively outperform anybody else around me.
Mm.
God,
Wow.
and that's a
And
God-given gift mostly with a lot of hard work. And the problem with that though is what does that mean to anyone else? It's like, oh great, I'm so good. Who cares about that? Like that's not really that powerful. In fact, I start my book with saying, hey, I'm a natural born salesman. I can sell ice to an Eskimo, oil to an Arab,
yeah,
pork to
I
a
love
rabbi.
that intro.
But who really cares about that? I mean, what does that matter to you? I'm looking to, unless you're going to hire me to sell something for you. Why do you care that I'm a great salesperson? But far more powerful than that is that I realized not long after that, that I actually also had the ability to train other salespeople. And that is a talent and a skill set that is invaluable to anyone.
Yeah, and I don't meet a lot of people that have trained or managed to train 1,000 of their own people
That I
to
trained, no, I
generate
trained
a
32. No,
billion.
no, Stratton, I trained 30,000 people, 13,000 people at
Wow.
Stratton. We had 3,000 people in the boardroom, 1,200 stockbrokers, hundreds of support staff, thousands of cold callers. So it was a massive operation. But I think one of the mistakes that people make, or one of the fears they have about how would you run such a big operation, or how, let me just tell you flat out, it's 1,000 times easier to manage 1,000 people than to manage 5 people.
Really? Why is that?
Because when you have 5 people, it's like every person thinks they're very important.
Mhm.
And you also can't layer it. You can't have supervisors. You typically don't have as much cash or to hire the best. When you have 1,000 people working for you and you're running a really good business, you're making a lot of money, you can afford to pay awesome people. And there's a certain energy that develops in that crowd mentality that allows you to create a culture. You can't create a culture with 3 or 4 people. You can create a culture with 100 people, or better yet, 1,000 people.
Wow.
So it's very difficult to be small. It's much easier to be big. It's kind of easy to be somewhere in the middle, but the worst thing to be doing is contracting or staying still. As a sales organization, you need to be growing or you're basically dying. That's the
Mhm.
bottom line. It is very easy to be big as a sales organization
Wow, that's amazing.
if you know how to do it.
Right, right. And the goal here is to uncover all the secrets to how the heck did you do all of that? And after the
It
meat
was easy.
business,
It was simple.
okay.
Oh, it's
Uh,
just simple. I mean, I think you're missing the point here. No, it's not hard. People, it just seems when you look at it from the outside, like, how the hell did this happen? It's
mhm.
actually really simple. The hard part's the first 10,
Getting the right first 10.
not even the right first 10, finding a business idea that's worthy of hiring people. In other words, the function of sales,
Mhm,
right, is to distribute and value to consumers or businesses, right? The trick to me in business is not so much sales, is that's so easy to do. And I'll get to that. The point is that I mean the mistake people make, and I've made it many times myself, is that you can't solve a problem by hiring salespeople.
mhm.
You first have to have a fundamentally sound idea, an economic value, and a way of delivering that that's scalable,
Got it.
that works. Once you have that and you actually have a model that is say, hey, I can afford to pay a salesman 300 grand a year in commission or 500 grand a year. If I can do that, everything else quickly takes care of itself. The problem is with many companies is the truth is they haven't really figured out the economics. They don't really have a model that a salesperson that's willing to work really hard, that is going to, go through the training and has at least maybe a little bit of talent, right?
Mhm.
Well, you know what? If you put them into a situation where the fundamentals kind of suck, right? You can't trick your way into that sort of success. The idea is that, you have to test your idea out small.
Mhm. Yep.
And then once you hit on an idea as a business person, right? And you can start to, scale a little bit, then you see, wait a second, okay, a really hardworking young guy or girl can make 200 grand their first year and 500,000 their second year. I'll take that thing to 10,000 people. It's simple.
Wow.
The trick is the first part, because when you are testing something out, if people are not making money, as salesman, you can't motivate salesmen into success. There's got to be a real business there first. You get
Mhm.
it? The training side's really easy, actually.
Interesting. Wow. So, did you learn all of this, when you transitioned from the meat business to becoming a stockbroker trainee at Rothschild? What was it, LP or LR or the
LF Rothschild.
LF Rothschild? Did you learn? Were they amazing at sales training and
No, there
management,
was
or
no
like
training.
it was just get on the phones and
It was
here's the
no, it
lead?
was just it was listen, the late 80s, right? Mid
Mhm,
80s, right? And there was no internet back then. And um the thing I learned from Rothschild while I was there was how powerful a tool the telephone is. And
mhm.
also the a startling um um reality of human nature that someone will send $1 million to someone they never met before on a phone call. I couldn't believe it
It's insane.
when I saw it happen. I was like, "This is crazy. These people are out of their minds." Like you have some guy calling them up on the phone, "Hey,
Cold?
Mr. Jones, cold." They don't know, and then through this process, not just calling them and saying, "Send me $1 million." No, that wouldn't work.
Mhm.
But through this process of let me send you some information, call them back a week later, open them up on a $5,000 trade or $10,000 trade, call them back a few days later, schmooze call them back a week later, 50,000 before you know it, the guy sent you $10 million. How does that happen? I
Unbelievable.
couldn't if you would have told me that when I first heard it, I said, "No, it's not true." I really did. I thought it was not true
Mhm.
because I'd been going door to door selling, and I was this amazing door to door salesman, and they fully understood. Put me in front of someone, I'll close them. But what if I'm on the phone? They can't see me. How are they going to trust me? How do they know I'm for real? Right? That's how I thought when I was
Mhm.
21, 22. And then I heard the story about a kid I knew who had grown up with who was making $1 million a year, which was about probably 4 million now. And I started to investigate what does it mean to be a stockbroker. And someone said, "Oh, they just call people on the phone." I'm like, "No." I'm like, I didn't believe it. Like,
Yeah.
don't they call them, go see them and get the big money? You got to go. They're like, no, they just call on the phone all day. And when I walked into the boardroom for the first time and saw it happening, I was like, holy fucking shit. I
Unbelievable.
couldn't believe it.
Like, this is so much faster than door to door.
Yeah, it's just, well, I mean, it's just, it was astounding to me that people would trust people they never saw before, never met before, never heard of before.
Mhm.
And and I watched that happen for about 6 months, and I had the benefit of sitting next to a really naturally talented salesman in the form of Mark Hannon, the guy in the movie, the Matthew
Yeah.
McConaughey, and also sitting around a bunch of idiots too. So I'm watching one guy sounds great.
Yeah.
The
Sharp as a tack, right?
well, just right on his tone. Unbelievable. Mark Hanna had this ability. He's still around. Not a great guy. Yeah, he had this ability to like be almost like apologize to this someone as he was ripping their eyeballs out. He's like almost apologizing as he's like being an animal. Like,
Yeah.
wow, like that is some powerful shit, right?
Mhm.
And um and I listened for months to everything he was saying, everyone else was saying. I saw the good, the bad, the ugly. And then when I finally had my chance to go out there, I had all this stuff percolating in my head after 6 months of just saying, "Hold on, Mr. Hanna." That's all I could do.
Ugh.
I wasn't licensed. And then when I picked up the phone to really make that first call, it was just like the movie.
Mhm.
And I started talking to this one client. And as I'm speaking, everyone started gathering around me and like stopping what they were doing. And I was like, "What's fucking going on here?" Right. And I closed the guy. And I knew I sounded great while I was doing it. And when I was done, had made this huge trade for penny stocks back then. They were like, "How'd you do that? Like, what did you just do?"
Yeah.
Like, they no one had heard it before, right? And I was like, at first I didn't really care about that. And then I, started training them because it was, they were just didn't work for me. They were just there. So I'd help them out. And then I had a chance to open my own firm pretty quickly after that. And, but that was how it started. So that was the
Yeah.
big lesson at Rothschild was the power of the telephone, hearing people that sounded good versus those that didn't sound good.
Yeah. Distilling that information.
Big difference. And I noticed how some people would get bogged down in facts and figures and never close the sale, while Mark Hanna would talk more about the future and bigger concepts.
Almost like benefits versus features.
Well, yes and no. In other words, there's a big misconception on features and benefits because people say, "Well, don't talk about the features, talk about the benefits," but that's not
Mhm.
true
Mhm.
because you can't because you're doing that. Like, what the fuck you talking about? What
What are you selling me?
what do you
Yeah.
what's the act what? You didn't mention anything. You're saying it'll do this for you, that for you. What will like? There's got to be like the feature is the logical side of the equation. What is it, and then what's the benefit to me,
Mhm.
right? So you have to do both. The idea is you mention a feature and expand on the benefit, and don't get bogged down in too many features, but you simply have to have a basis for what the benefits are being created by, or else it's like there's a lack of authenticity to what you're saying. And I'm a huge believer in making airtight logical cases for what I do. One of the most important aspects of what I teach is this idea that people don't buy on logic. They buy on emotion, but they justify their decisions with logic, and that the logical mind serves as the human bullshit detector. So if you just try to sweep someone away emotionally with it's going to be great, you'll feel great, imagine this, imagine that, but you didn't create the logical underpinning, then mind's going bullshit, bullshit. He's trying to impulse me, bullshit, bullshit.
Mhm.
Rather, I'd rather get someone to say, "Wow, that's really great. That makes a lot of sense." I'm not buying it, but that makes a lot of sense. If I got someone to that spot, I'll close them every time because then it frees them up to be moved emotionally. It's almost like you say, "Okay," they'll put their guard down. Okay, I get it, makes sense. Yes. So now when I start to say about how great their life will be and all the benefits it'll give them,
Mhm.
there's a connection between reality and what the future will hold. That's how you close at a much higher level. The trick is how much of the first, how much of the second, how do you do that? But
Yeah.
it's not just about benefits and you don't ignore features, but you certainly minimize them, but you need to mention them and explain them out in a way that's cohesive and that creates an airtight logical case.
You got to use it all to get the deal done, it sounds like.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's again, you're always playing to both sides of a person, their logical mind and their emotional mind.
Mhm. That's amazing. And when you were leaving Rothschild, how did you decide that the secrets or the strategies to kind of leverage when you went to the investment center and you launched your own firm? You Was it just you just followed the people that were just making all the money? Or was it like, studying all of the people at the firm and then launching your own firm?
Well, what happened was I actually stumbled upon a new niche in the market. There was an untapped niche that I had hit on, and that was selling $5 stocks, 5 to $10. You had the big firms selling the big stocks, and you had the penny stock firms selling the 10-cent stocks and 20-cent stocks, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, the big firms were selling those big stocks to the wealthiest 1%, business owners, successful people, people with large portfolios, and you had the penny stock firms calling average moms and dads with little or no net worth, who basically were not financially sophisticated. It was like a dollar in a dream, buying a lotto ticket to them, right?
Yep.
So one was like just sort of like this unsophisticated lotto type of sale, where it's like just a small investment, maybe it'll hit big, and the other was people that really had substantial means that were deploying capital, looking for a return, and were being, well, had accounts at lots of firms were being called by or lots of brokers, right? Very different. At the time, the collective wisdom was listen, the big firms call the rich people and the small bucket shops call the poor people. And the reason for that is because the people that work at the small firms are morons. They're
Mhm.
not college educated. They are not that talented at selling. They don't have the words, the vocabulary to be able to explain. Because if you put a kid on the phone with a rich business owner, he'll eat them alive
Yep.
versus the kids, people that are going to the big firms, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, Goldman Sachs, Lehman Brothers back then, before it went into business, right? Those people are from the Ivy League schools or the good colleges, and they've, understand financially sophisticated, so they can speak to the rich people. They're trained to do such. So that was the collective wisdom back then. I
Mhm.
disrupted that
Yeah,
completely.
I love this part.
And then the way I disrupted that was by inventing the straight line system. So the
Mhm.
straight line system, which was the kids called the great equalizer, because it took morons and turned them into geniuses on the telephone for selling stocks. In other words, it doesn't turn you into a genius in life, but if it'll take you from where you are in anything in terms of sales and show you how to sell that and sound like a
Yeah.
wizard, basically. So I took these kids
Mhm.
that could barely walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yep.
And I had them sounding like Wall Street wizards that could go toe to toe with the toughest, meanest, most sophisticated investors in the world. And that's what happened. So there was the leap I had was I discovered this untapped niche, which was
Mhm.
selling $5 to $10 stocks to the richest 1%. For whatever reason, no one had tried it before, probably because of the things I said that you simply
Yeah.
couldn't do. Because when I tried to do it, I tested the idea myself with myself and Danny,
Yeah, you guys
and we
nailed it,
were
right?
killing it, right? But then when I tried to get the other kids to do it, they couldn't do it.
Mm.
And that was like, I don't get it. Like, why can I do it? Why can Danny do it? And why can't they do it? They couldn't close a fucking door. All
Right.
right. And meanwhile, Danny and I just knocking it out of the park. And I'm like, what is it? What do we have? We're calling the same people, selling the same stock, reading the same script.
Same
I'm
script.
like, what is going on here? And at the time I was teaching a methodology of sales, didn't have a name, but it was really good. And I gave these great meetings, high-powered motivational meetings, and I would, go through objection handling and tonality, all this stuff. And I thought my system was great. And when I couldn't get people to close these kids to close rich people, I went on a quest instead of reading every book. I flew across the country to a seminar that had all the great sales trainers. And what I quickly realized is that my system was 10 times better than anything else out there by a country mile, and mine wasn't working. So as I was stuck when I went out there, I don't want to mention names, but there was like, because I love some of these people because they're great, but their systems were not nearly as good as what I was teaching before the straight line. All right. And I was like, shit, I'm stuck. So I
Yeah.
went back to my firm. It was like 30 days after I had stumbled upon this niche, and the young kids, like 13 of them, they wanted to quit.
Because they're not making any money.
Yeah, they wanted to go back to selling penny stocks, which to me was like more pain than I could bear. I mean, I didn't love that market. It was just so
The
schlock.
commissions are smaller.
Well,
It's
the
harder to
commissions were bigger, but
sell.
the trades were tiny, so
Got it.
you make 50% commission on a $500 trade, big deal, right?
Mm.
So, what I ended up doing at Stratton was taking, that's, pretty much a 50% commission on $1 million trade, sort of, more or
Yep.
less. It was crazy, right? And, so when I went back to the firm after this 30-day trip around the country trying to figure out how to train the guys, and I was at my wit's end, and I had this meeting, this one marathon sales training session at night I was giving because the guys were all depressed, and I stood up in front of the guys and I, said, "What's so hard? I don't get it. I'm doing it. Danny's doing it. I know you can do it."
Mm.
And they were just like, "There's so many objections. We keep getting hit with objections. There's so many objections. There's thousands of objections." Another goes, "Yeah, thousands of objections." Like, really? Yeah. I said, "Great. Let's write down 1,000. Let's write down all 1,000.
Yeah.
Go ahead and have
Let's
my
stay up
board.
all night and write these
Let's
all
write them all
down.
down." Because my plan was I was gonna actually write all the objections down and like in the form of like a big thing and run the wheel on them. Like I was
This
gonna
is a big
overcome
circle.
every objection and show them how I did it. Right. So I said, "Come on, let's go." I said, "Let's write down all thousands." I wrote, so they said, "Let me think about it." I said, "Great, wrote that down."
Mhm.
Look, guys, let me call you back. I wrote that down. Bad Tommy, I wrote that down. I said, "Come on, that's 3. We got 997 to go. Let's keep going." And they went on and on and on and on and on and on, right? And they kept writing all these objections down until they were completely exhausted every objection, which turned out to be 14 fucking objections.
Yeah.
That was it.
Crazy.
It wasn't 1,000, it was 14. And half of them were repeats of 2. Let me speak to my wife, my partner, my accountant. It was speak to someone else. Or it's Christmas time. It's tax time. It's back to school time. It's freaking Groundhog's Day. It's leap. You get it? And in that moment, I just got so angry. I remember just, looking at these guys and saying, you guys are just unbelievable. You're crying about all these objections, 1,000 objections. There's only 14, and even half of those are repeats. And by the way, even those don't matter.
Right.
And I'm like, don't you guys get it? I'm like, and a thought popped into my head. I said, every sale's the same. And they're like, what? Like they give me that weird look. I don't I mean every sale's the same. I'm like, guys, every sale's the same. And they pop another. I said, watch, it's a straight line. And I drew this long, thin line on the center of the board. I put a big, thick X on either end. I said, this is your open where the sale begins. This is your close where the client says, yeah, let's do it. And something happened. There was something about the visual of this straight line, and it within me a window of clarity to open up. And I believe human beings have this ability. Sometimes we get into these incredibly creative periods. You see with rock musicians where like some band will just write the most amazing music and they just can't do it again. Like,
Yep.
and we have that. You see some athletes that just like they get so amazing and they just lose it. Like, well, for me, this was this moment of clarity where suddenly it appeared to myself. I felt myself like I had access to information I never thought of before. And
It's like this a big epiphany.
it was like everything suddenly made sense to me in this one moment. And over the next 3 hours, I basically started teaching them a different, entirely different way of thinking about a sale
Mhm.
and executing a sale. It's just a different strategy of how you go about selling and communicating your ideas, your thoughts, your hopes, your dreams. Just very regimented, using this idea that at the end of the day, you're moving in a certain direction. I think a lot of people that are not natural closers, if you ask them like, "What do you do when you sell?" They're like, "I get people to buy." And what are you actually doing? Like, what's actually happening when you
Mhm.
sell? And and,
Documenting.
and what happened was I called it goal oriented communication, meaning you have a goal in mind. They're feeling one way. They're feeling like, well, I don't want to buy now. And you're saying, well, no, you really should be buying right now. Like, and the idea is that, you're looking to accomplish a goal. It's very different than random communication with friends hanging out. So we call it goal oriented communication. The straight line served as this, the shortest, most elegant way to go from point A to point Z. And then I started realizing it's just like what happened was it was almost like unlocked something in me. And I realized how I had been able to be this ultra top producer. It wasn't like just a top producer, I was the top producer anywhere in the world I went. Right.
Mhm.
And I started realizing how my own strategy of what I had been doing suddenly in that moment became completely above the surface. I was like, "Holy shit, I know now." I understood what I'd been doing, and I spent 3 or 4 hours teaching him this new system, and it was, like, about midnight by the time I left, and when we left, we were all like, "Wow, it was great. Oh my god, what a great training." And I went to bed that night, and I remember I come home with my wife number 1. There's a bunch of wives ago. I haven't done well in the wife department. So I say I teach you sales mastery, not relationship mastery, certainly not marriage mastery, okay? If you wanna have a disastrous marriage life, come let me counsel you, okay? But this is wife number 1. I remember coming home, I was so nervous because like my business was doing terrible because I
Mhm.
had abandoned these penny stocks and was trying to sell big stock. I was trying to sell to these rich people these $10 stocks, and it just wasn't working. And I was like, my stomach was churning every single day. And I remember that night I went to sleep, and she's like, "How'd it go?" I said, "I think I had a breakthrough tonight. I think it's going good." And I didn't know though because the market was closed. And the next morning, I remember driving to work and I was like, wondering, is the magic still there? Do I still have that? Can I still say what? Because I said all these new things I never thought of before.
Probably didn't
Uh,
record
uh,
it either.
um, um, it, that first night was not recorded. The
Mhm.
first original night, from that moment forward, everything was recorded. All right.
Interesting.
And so that next morning, I came back 8:30 and I gave another meeting, and the magic was still there, and everything I'd said still now, and it made even more sense to me now. And I went deeper
Amazing.
into it. And at 9:30, they picked up the phones and started dialing. And before that, they'd gone a month without opening up an account. And what happened that morning was so incredible. They went on an account opening spree. These 12, former, I say, they were like Forrest Gump on 3 It's S.
McDonald's guys, whatever.
These
Yeah.
former Forrest Gumpites, all right, they went out, and you couldn't even believe it if you saw it happen. Like bam, bam, all of a sudden they started opening up accounts like mad.
Mhm.
Within 3 weeks, they were all on pace to be making $1 million a year. They started telling their friends. Their friends started showing up for jobs. First, they started trickling in from Long Island and New York. And they started pouring in from all over the country. Before I knew it, I already had grown to 300 people like that.
Wow.
And it just went fucking wild.
Just
All because of this inventing this one. And what it was a way to take an average person and turn them into a world-class salesperson really quickly. It could do it in a matter of days. And the firm continued to grow and grow and grow. And then the problems started. There were a lot of unintended consequences to all that growth because I didn't, my business, see, stocks is really no different than any other business. Like, you have a product you're selling. Well, the product is a stock, right? And, just, I guess an equivalent would be, imagine if Starbucks was going to expand and they had enough good coffee beans to open up 10 stores.
mm,
I said, but everyone loves these stores, so let's open up 1,000 stores. I mean, the coffee will suck at the rest of the stores, but we'll
yeah.
still sell it because until people figure out it sucks, we'll keep selling it.
Mm.
That's kind of what happened. I mean, I didn't have enough product to
Massive
sell.
scale.
In addition, the biggest issue that really hurt me was that because we grew so rapidly that the prices of the stocks I was recommending began to not reflect the value of the companies they were supposed to represent. They
Mm.
represented the value of Stratton.
Because you guys were selling it so fast. This
So
is like
the
almost like the
so
housing market, but the stock.
the stocks will represent the value of a stock was not about the company. It was about Stratton. So as Stratton grew, the market caps of these stocks went up in tandem with me as a company becoming more valuable. And the stock, it was a disaster. And that was a disaster for me because I didn't make any more money doing that.
Mm.
It was an unintended consequence of me being, just growth crazy. And I was making a lot of money on new stuff, but the old stuff was inflating as well. It's just like Bitcoin. Bitcoin
Yeah.
inflated. Didn't serve, it served some people value. Those that owned Bitcoin made money.
Mhm.
But at the point in time, I didn't own my own stocks. They were going up. I no longer owned them. They were out into the world. They were still going up. I wasn't making extra money by doing that. It was creating what's called the illusion of prosperity. So clients that were sending me money, they're watching their portfolios rise. So they send more money.
Mm.
So it fueled growth,
Yep.
but didn't make me more money into itself. I could have managed that much better. It was a mistake I made. It was young. I was in my early 20s. So now when I'm looking at businesses, if I have the ability to grow, I'm a lot more careful. Well, okay, I can grow, but should I grow? Can I deliver value on a global level? Maybe I can deliver value locally or regionally, but maybe not internationally. So you have to be careful what you do.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so this epiphany of the straight line, I know you said you could teach it in a few days. Teach it to me in 10 minutes, right? So you've got all these guys, 12, 20 guys in the room. You're doing this midnight. Like, walk me through step by step, because this is what the audience wants to know. You went from 12 to
Buy my
to
books.
thousands.
Buy my shit. No, I don't
Yeah,
care.
and Jordan's got
Listen,
an
guys,
amazing training program on this, but
I do. You should buy it. You weak-minded people. No. Listen, I don't care whether you buy it or not. You should buy because it's good for you. You can find stuff free online as well. And listen, there's a lot of free stuff out there. But the best stuff, of course, you pay for because it's organized, it's regimented, and it's collated in a way to maximize your results. Yes, you should buy because it's awesome. The whole world wins, right? But to quickly explain the straight line, all right? It's basically the premise is it's just the truth about life. It's a basic truth, right? And the truth is that sales is about the transference of emotion, and the primary emotion that you're transferring is the emotion of certainty. When someone buys something, they're certain they've reached a certain level. They're certain that if I buy this thing, it's going to improve my life in some way. It's going to fill a need. It's going to make me feel more in control of in some way. When someone buys a new car, they feel because it's gonna, make me feel great inside. It's gonna get me to a place without, being safely and without breaking it. People buy shit
Yep.
not because they think it'll make their lives worse. They buy things so they think they'll make their lives better.
Yep.
We always act based on, our own self-interest in terms of we buy stuff not to hurt ourselves. And that doesn't mean we always make good decisions. We do often hurt ourselves, but we think at the time that we're making a good decision, right? Positive self-intent, right?
Yeah.
So the average person, if you thought that through and didn't really dig deep, you'd say, okay, well, then it's really important that if you're a salesperson and I want to sell you this coffee mug, well, it's really important that you think this mug has got massive value. It's going to suit you. It's going to fill your needs. It's going to resolve your problems as much as a coffee mug can, but
Right.
it's the best coffee mug. It's absolutely awesome to make an airtight, logical case why this coffee mug is the right coffee mug for you. It's the best price point. It's the best value. It's going to fill your needs. And also on the emotional side, just like imagine how great you'll feel with this beautiful mug and the coffee smelling in the morning and you hold it. It feels great. Just blah, blah. It's a coffee fucking mug, right? It's more of a commodity than anything, but but that's what a salesperson say. Okay, well, I'm going to be selling coffee mugs or I'm selling cars. I better make sure that they love this car. Like when I'm done with my presentation, I better explain to them why this car is awesome. So imagine this, a line or a continuum of certainty. And a 10 means that they're like, yeah, that's the
All
greatest
in.
car. It's
10.
awesome. I love
Yeah.
that car. It's amazing. And a one
Mhm.
means that's the biggest piece of shit ever. I wouldn't, So like think about this as a salesperson. Where do you want your prospect when you ask them to buy? You ask for the order, they could be at a 1 or a 10. Where do you want them?
10.
As close to a 10 as humanly
Mhm.
possible, right? Just
Mhm.
logic, right? So
Yep.
it's a basic
Totally.
truth, right? You don't want them saying, well, oh yeah, I think that car sucks. I'll buy it. It's not going to happen. They're like, oh my God, I love it. What a
Mhm.
great deal. I know I'll feel great. Got a good shot at closing.
Yep.
So the idea is that when the average person thinks of selling or communicating or persuading or negotiating, they'll say, it's real. That's my goal. I got to get them really, really certain that this is awesome.
Mhm.
And for that matter, where is that prospect on the certainty scale before the sale starts? So you're an automobile salesman or an insurance salesman, and you want to close someone that walks in your door, or your dealership, or you walk in their home, whatever, right? And let's say you want to get them to that 10.
Yep.
The question is, where are they when they walk in the door? Are they at a 3, a 5, a 7, and not what? Where are they? People say, oh, 5, probably in the middle somewhere. 3. The answer is, who the fuck knows?
Right. I don't know.
Unless you're Kreskin the mind reader, how do you know?
Mhm.
You don't know where they are, but what you do know is that they're somewhere because they're from planet Earth. Like they know about insurance, like their mommy and their daddy told them about
Yep.
insurance. They've seen commercials. They know about automobiles. They know about every brand. They know about iPhones. They know about records. They know. So if you're selling, whatever you're selling, the second someone enters into the encounter and realizes what's happening, that I am being offered to buy, their brain instantly sizes up all their past experiences, their prejudices, everything they've ever seen, heard, known, or told. All right. And they'll make shit up if they in a lack of those make stuff up and say, I'm at a 5. Like they have this feeling they get like I'm in the middle. So that they have a preconceived notion about what it is. You, the salesperson, where are you on the scale? Well, you better be at a freaking 10.
Yep.
You got to know your product is the best. You got to feel it inside, and you're transferring that certainty through language.
Mm.
And that language could be body language. It could be through tone, things you say, documents you hand. You're selling someone means you're transferring. You're making them more certain. You're taking the certainty that you feel, and you are using communication. So when you're done, they're like, "Damn, wow! Now that I know more about it, I'm really certain."
Yeah. Through that tonality, that passion,
That's
that
selling, right?
enthusiasm.
That's what really
Yeah.
selling is. So let's say you do that. Let's say you effectively get someone so that they walked in, let's say they were at a 5,
Mhm.
and let's say after you're done explaining everything, they're now at a 10, and you ask for the order. Will they buy? Yes or no? So I've done this, asked that question all over the world, and invariably the whole entire audience of those who went through the straight line will say, yeah, of course they'll buy. I'll say, really? Okay,
Yeah.
well, what about if in the process of you making them certain, you said something or did something that made them distrust you? Would they buy
Mm.
now? No way. We don't buy from people we don't trust
Yeah.
and we don't like and don't connect with. So it's not enough that you get them to a 10 about the product. They also have to be at a 10, meaning a 1 means you're the most untrustworthy snake-like human that I would never want to even be in the same room because you'll pick my pockets. A 1 and a
Yep.
10 means, oh my God, this is the most trustworthy, honest salesperson. I leave them with my children. I leave my bank and my money there. This is someone I want in my life for the long term. They give me value. They care about my needs. Okay, that's a 10.
Yep.
So it's not enough just to get them to a 10 about the product. They also have to be a 10 about you.
The salesperson.
About the salesperson.
Salesperson.
So if you do that now and you get them to a 10 about both the product and you, and now you ask for the order, will they buy now? Well, the answer again is maybe they will, maybe they won't, because what if they don't trust the company that stands behind the product? Let's say you're selling Toyotas and they love this car, but they've heard that Toyota, because it was a time when Toyota had a bad reputation for a short time, some recalls and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And the sales suffered tremendously. Why? Because you can love your salesperson, you can love the particular car, but I don't trust the company. So sales, because people will not buy. They'll say, let me think of it. I'll get to that later. But the point is that, and Toyota's a great company. And so they repaired their image and the sales bounced back and they're fine, right?
Yep.
Those 3 elements, they must love the product, they must trust and connect with you Trust the company that stands behind the product. Those are called the 3 10s. Your goal as a salesperson, as you move someone down the straight line from the open to the close, is to get them to a 10 10 10 in a single moment in time, and then ask for the order. That's what you're doing when you sell. That is what a salesman does. And every great salesperson who's a natural born closer does that automatically without thinking about it. And the really good ones, you know how they do it? The same fucking way every time. They do it the same way every time. No different than a professional safe cracker who walks up to a safe and he goes to pick the lock and there's 3 numbers. What does he do? Does he go for the 3rd number first? No, that won't work.
Right.
He goes for the 1st number first. Then he gets click. He gets that. I got that. Goes to the 2nd number second, 3rd number third. He pulls down the handle. If it opens, he closed the deal. If it doesn't open, what do you say? Oh, it's uncrackable? No. He goes back to the beginning. He tries the 1st number again, the 2nd number, the 3rd number.
Wow.
If he tries a couple of times, you know what? This might be one of those really specially hard saves that has 5 numbers, because the good ones have 5 numbers. Just so happens that human beings have up to 5 numbers in their combinations. So if those first 3 numbers don't do it, there are 2 more numbers as well. Is that once you understand that there are these distinctive elements that must line up in every sale, okay, well, that's why every sale is the same. But here's the deal. Imagine if you're in a situation where the person you're trying to close is in control of the encounter. They're controlling the flow of the sale. How the hell are you going to line up those elements when someone else is controlling? You're like an outmatched boxer. It's like getting into the ring with Mike Tyson. You're just covering up, and then for Mike Tyson, every sale's the same. Every fight, he's backing into a corner. He's hitting body blows, drop the odds, boom, once a chin, out like a light.
Yep.
So he's running a strategy, doing it the same way every time. That's what great closers do. And the only way that you can make every sale the same is by taking control of the encounter in the first few seconds. So great salespeople have an ability to immediately take control of the sale. And that was what was going on at Stratton. What happened was I had this innate ability from literally the first second I opened up my mouth. And Danny had that same ability. I taught Danny the actual words, but he had the ability. And he had that natural ability. And from the moment you open up your mouth, they're like, whoa, this is an expert I'm dealing with. And people defer. So when we're in the position of experts, we say, hey, great, you're an expert. I will listen to you. I'll let you guide me through the encounter. So one of the fundamental principles of the straight line is you must take immediate control of the sale. How? By positioning yourself as, number 1, sharp as attack, that you're sharp on the ball. 2, enthusiastic. Must be good. And 3, an expert in your field. Number 3 is the most important of all, that you're an expert. Once the prospect perceives you as being an expert, you know what they do? They stop interrupting you. They stop cutting you off. And here's what happened that night. In retrospect, what it was that triggered the straight line being invented was when the guy said to me, we're getting hit with so many objections. We can't get our pitches off. And I was like, well, wait a second. That doesn't happen to me. I'm getting the same objections they're getting, but at the end. I'm not getting people saying, let me think about it before I ask for the order. Right. Why would they do it? And then because they heard my voice. It was something in the way I was speaking and communicating that say, whoa, this person is different. They're an expert. They've earned the right to now guide the encounter. Once you're positioned as an expert, which is actually very easy to do through using straight line techniques with tonality, body language, and certain words, a whole universe of possibility opens up. Because now, if you're in control, you can do what? You can make every sale flow the same way. You can be that safe cracker that gets that first number first, that second number second, that third number third. And if it doesn't work, you go back and that's essentially what the straight line is. It's the safe cracker's manual for the human mind.
That's amazing. So how long did it take you to realize, okay, hey, we get them to product 10, we get them to the salesperson, they got to believe a 10, they got to believe the company, you got to lower the action threshold, and then you got to raise the pain. It sounds like,
well, those last 2 are the 5th, 4th, and 5th number.
You walk them through this straight line, and how long did it take you to realize that these guys weren't using, because me and 1,000 other sales leaders at the Fortune 1,500, 5,000, we're doing the same thing that you did. And we're like, guys, we're selling like crazy. How are you not doing this? We're banging our heads against the wall.
Because every natural born closer uses the straight line, whether they know it or not. They're all using the straight. If you know how many top salespeople in the world was like, oh my God, when I read your book, I was dying. Because like it's exactly what I do all the day. It's like I can't believe you put it into words. See what happens is the visual of the straight line is what gives context to people who are not naturally good at sales. They're like, oh my God, wait, you mean there's actually something happening? Like it gives them a basis on which to start saying, oh my God, it starts to make sense now. That like the line's a very simple concept, right? I go into companies, I get hired, I do a ton of corporate training. I get hired by companies and usually they're using the crooked line before I get there, they're using the circle. They're like the people are going around in freaking circles. I'm like, this is like I've walked in and seen scripts that are so bad, they're so toxic. I'm like, I can't believe you're closing anyone. It's a testament to how great the product is. They can even make any sales at all. And they'll use the straight line, the sales will double. I mean, it's because it's the truth. It's just basically the truth about communication.
Yep.
And my biggest fans are great salesmen because when they read it, they like, damn, that's true.
Yep. And when you say sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, right? And an expert, how does one go about teaching their sales team to be sharp as a tack? Like enthusiastic, I think like that belief that you had mentioned earlier, you got to be all in on your product. If you're selling a Mercedes, you got to want to drive that Mercedes, and you could transfer that enthusiasm. How do you teach sharp as a tack and an expert in your field?
Sharp as a tack, an expert in your field is mostly about tonality and body language.
Okay.
More than anything else. How you make eye contact, how you shake hands, how you dress, how you hold your body. A lot of it also is this technique I teach called active listening, which is not so much about how you move and react as you speak. When people think of body language, they typically think of someone like, oh, when they talk, they move their body, right? And they have good body language. They know how to use their hands but body language, by the way, is equally, if not more powerful when you're listening. So I ask someone a question, and then as they respond, I'm like, ooh, yeah. I'm so active when I listen. And it says, wow, I get you. I understand you. I feel your pain. We're on the same page. Ooh, nice. Congratulations. There's so much in my communication and all the grunts and groans and eye contact. As I listen to people, they're like, damn, this person really understands me. They get, wow, he's sharp. Damn. And you get all this subliminal stuff across, and it just builds on itself and it builds on itself.
And one of the things that I love that you teach and preach is to do the active listening. Let me know if you agree. And, well, this is what you teach. You got to use sales scripts to be active listeners. If you're just thinking about what you're going to say next, you can't actively listen.
Well, I mean, unless listen, there's some people, 0.01% of the world are natural born closers, and they can. There's this really, really, really small group that just gets it.
Like the guys that make $1 million a week.
There's people out there. I'm not the only one that soars naturally in sales. There's people out there, right? But they're just very, very rare. Most people struggle. Most people don't feel comfortable in that situation of influence. They shy away from it. And because of that, they live far less empowered lives than they could, meaning based on everything else, their intellect, their drive, their ambition, their goals, they could be doing so much better, but they're held back by the inability to communicate their message effectively, right? That's the saddest thing in the world to me because it's such an easily resolved problem. Like I could teach anyone to become proficient. See, I'm not going to say I could take you and turn you into me. That's not what the straight line is about. You wouldn't want that. You want to be your best self. The straight line system allows you to become your best possible self when it comes to communication. What it does do, it takes it out of the equation, the fact that I'm failing because I can't communicate. That will not, if you know the straight line, if you fail, it'll be for another reason. It won't be because you couldn't communicate. Because here's the deal. In reality, some people do fail because they can't communicate. They have the best ideas, the best thoughts, the best intentions, and they die with their music on their lips because they didn't know how to get it out in the right way.
Yeah, 95% of startups fail because they can't sell the products.
I mean, that's one reason why they're also undercapitalized. They have shitty management. They have stupid ideas, but that's beside the point. But yeah, I mean, not knowing how to sell is a huge problem for many, many companies, many people. And the sad thing is, it's easy to learn. With the straight lines are really, it's idiot proof, because and the reason it's idiot proof is because I had to teach it to idiots.
Yeah.
It had to be idiot proof, right?
Yeah.
It's like Warren Buffett has one of the greatest sayings of all time. He goes, when I buy a company, and I'm looking at the operations, I want to make sure the operations are so airtight, they're so sound, they're so easy to use that even an idiot can run them. You know why?
Perfect.
Because sooner or later, one will.
It's amazing. Now, when you're using the straight line selling persuasion system, you mentioned you got to go after people that are in heat and in power, and you got to avoid the loosey loos,
Look, you lose.
looky loos, and the tire kickers. What does that mean? Like, what is people in heat and power, and what is the looky loos?
So I had a guy on my podcast, a guy named Grant Cardone. You probably know
Yep.
who he is. Supposedly a good sales trainer. I think the guy's an idiot in my
You
book.
guys went to battle.
I didn't go to, I wasn't really much of a battle. Let's face it. Okay, the guy got destroyed in my podcast, and everyone knows it. All right, he got destroyed. And I'm not saying that Grant's not a good marketer, because I think he is. As far as sales goes, he's just awful and knows very little about it. In terms of strategy, it's just idiotically stupid, right? And he made a fool of himself in my podcast. He just did. All right, it was empirically a fact. The basis of all selling is that you do not want to be turning non-buyers into buyers. It's just a fool's errand. That, if someone is not interested, and someone is not qualified, and someone does not need what you have, if you want to, I guess in dating we call that what? Stalking? We call that, right? It's called stalking in human terms. And it's called wasting your freaking time as a salesperson. And it's what a lot of young rookie salespeople do. They actually spend time trying to close people who don't want what they have, who can't benefit from what they have, and who couldn't afford it, by the way. Even if they could benefit, they couldn't afford it, right? Now, forget the can't afford it people. It's a little bit of a separate issue. But let's take the ones that just aren't interested in what you have. Those people need to be weeded out of your pipeline as quickly and elegantly as possible, or you're going to quit your job and never make money, because you're going to say, I don't understand. I'm trying to close. Do I suck at sales that no one's buying? Because they don't want what you're selling. Professional salespeople don't take people who are not interested and make them buy. That's not what they do. Professional salespeople take people who are very interested, but are saying, let me think about it. Let me call you back. It's a bad time of year. It's too expensive. I can't afford it right now. I got to speak to my wife. You take those people and turn them into yeses now. That's what great closers do. If I'm going to say, here, sell me this pen, the whole thing I did, right? And the person, I said, so they said, well, how do you sell someone a pen? Great. First thing I would say, so tell me, how long you've been in the market for a pen? The person says, oh, I'm not looking for a pen. I said, great, well, have a nice day. I'm not going to, I'm going to try to sell you a pen you don't want or need, or, you get it? Maybe I'd say, well, the only one that wants a pen, if I was really going to be elegant about it. But the point is that you don't succeed in sales trying to take people who don't want to buy something and make them buy it. You find people who actually want it, but who really maybe don't want to buy the second. That's what a buyer in power. They want it, they need it, they love it, but I'll get around to it. That's a great potential buyer. But if I'm trying to sell insurance, and the guy says, I'll never buy, I don't want insurance, I already have someone I deal with, I'm have a nice day. Next. I want to go on to the next door, the next phone, next phone. I'm not going to beat that person to death, okay, because it's a waste of time. And it's a function very often of a different problem. It's a function of people being fearful of dialing the phone. It's a function of people not having enough leads because they haven't been taught the marketing side of the equation. Yeah. So, in the absence of a lot of leads, people will tend to dig too much into each individually. So, but that's one of the basic rules of selling.
Yeah, that's interesting. So if you were calling on a business and they're like, I'm not interested, we already pay for someone else's training. And you and I both know that
that's very different.
Okay. So that's, because I was reading about that.
You said not interested. And you said, not interested, we already have someone else's training.
Two different objections. Already working with someone versus I'm not interested.
One is I'm not. One says I already have a supplier deal with us. That's very different.
Got it. So when someone says I'm already working with someone, how do you handle that?
Sir, at this point, I'm not looking to interfere with your current relationship. All I want to do right now is say you some information on what because I would simply deflect that objection, say I'm not looking to interfere with your current relationship. We deal with a very special, again, who knows what you're selling,
right?
But let's say it was a stock.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
And let's say you called some guys. I deal with a local broker. I say, I'm not looking to interfere with your local broker. Okay. We deal with a very special type of investment. Time to time, I want to just reach out to you. For right now, all I want to do is send you some information on my company and get back to you down the road. Next time, something that's unique for you. Does that sound fair enough? The guy says, yeah, sure. Why not? All right. So that's very different than a guy saying, no, not interested.
Mhm.
I'm like, well, the investment market, not interested. I'm like, have a nice day. Next. And I'll call the next guy. What am I going to stand up? What's the chances of turning around that guy? It's a numbers. It's crazy. It's also rude.
Was it hard for you to teach your team? Like, you sold $1 billion worth of stock, right? And you've trained 13,000 that have worked for you. How much money would you have sold?
Raised $1 billion.
Raised $1 billion.
Sold like 50 billion worth of stock. There's a very big difference in the two.
Got it. Even bigger than what we even
no.
thought. That's amazing.
Different things. Like, selling stock, you sell the same stock over and over and over again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how much would you have made if you would have chased down the I'm not interested? Instead of 50 billion, would it have been like 1/10 of that? Not following that advice that you just said?
No, I'd be out of business. You wouldn't be in business.
Wow.
It's not possible. You can't run a system. No one does that. Okay. People are trying, if you as a company are trying to spend your time telling uninterested people, you're not going to be in business very long. The world's far too competitive. It's not even a question that you really can be answered, because it's not really, it would never happen.
Got it. And you got to be smart enough to just find the money, find the buyers that would be interested.
The truth is, I don't even know if Grant Cardone even meant anything. Because like, it's so stupid what he was saying it's so prima facie stupid. Okay. That, I think on some level, he's just doesn't have the ability to express himself well. Because if he really meant that, he's just dumber than I even think. It's impossible that you could do that. It's like the most fundamental basic rule of selling is that you're not looking to sell to people who don't want what you have. Like, anyone in the world who knows anything about selling will just tell you that, right?
Yep.
So it's just too
smart.
basic.
It's smart. And you said when you run in, I believe, what do you do when you run into these different objections? You created a new system, a new strategy called looping. What is looping? Like, when you run into an objection?
Well, the basis of looping is the fact that objections, for the most part, there are some exceptions to every rule. For the most part, objections are smoke screens for uncertainty. So what happens is, you enter in a situation of influence, you present your idea, and when you're done, right, the person is like saying, well, that sounds really, really good, but I'm not 100% sure. So what do they say? They say, I don't know if your product is good enough for me to part with my hard-earned money. You're like, well, fuck you. I thought I did a really good job. Let me explain it again.
Right.
It's like, if for an individual, a customer, it would be amazing. It would be such an easy world to sell in, is if when you were done and you asked for the order and the customer said, oh, I'm not buying because I'm not that certain about the first 10. I don't really trust you because I don't know you. My mommy told me when I was 5, don't trust a salesman. They don't want to make commission. They don't have your best interest. So that's on my mind too, Jordan, just so you know. And I don't really know much about your company. So if you just clear up those 3 things for me right now, I'll probably buy from you. But is that what people say?
Nope.
What do they say? It sounds good. Let me think about it.
Send me some info.
Why? So I can read it and make myself more certain. Let me call you back so I can do my own checking and make myself more certain. Someone says, I'm not that liquid right now. It's not a great time. They're saying, well, the point is that I'm not certain of that to part with my hard-earned money right now, considering money is tight. I better be really, really certain I'm going to get the right bang for the buck here. Someone says, send me some information. Someone says, let me speak to my brother-in-law who's an expert so I can make myself
more certain.
It always comes down to certainty. You know what objection I like the most, though, of all?
Which one?
I'm not liquid right now. I don't have the money. I'm short of money. You know what? At least it might be real. In other words, see, when someone says, let me think about it.
At least it might be real.
Well, what is thinking about it means I'm not certain.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, it's bullshit.
Yeah,
I want to call you back. It's bullshit. That's smoke screens for uncertainty. But very, very common is people say, I can't afford it right now. That's very different, right? I'm not liquid. I can't afford it. It's out of my budget right now. So what do I do then? I don't hang up the phone. Oh, sorry about that. No, I said, oh, I told you, let me show you how you actually can afford it. I'll
Mm.
show you the payment strategy, a discount, but whatever it might be,
ROI, whatever it
whatever
might be.
those strategies could be based on what you're selling, maybe downsell you to a different product,
Mm.
whatever it might be. So, but for the most part, objections are the smoke screens for uncertainty. So the big mistake salespeople make is that if someone says, "Let me think about it," they think that if I can overcome "Let me think about it," then they'll buy. So they'll say, "Let me think about it." Say, "Listen, John, I'm doing this a long time. I know you want to think about it, but when people think about it, you put it in the back of your mind. You'll decide against it. I know you'll love this idea. I don't want you to miss this opportunity. You need this. You want give me it." That doesn't accomplish anything. In other words, all answering someone's objection does is it gives you the right to speak more. So if you let me think about it, I would say, Jim, I'm doing this for a long time. And if there's one thing I learned is that when people like you think about it, you're a busy guy. I'm a busy guy. You'll put this in the back of your mind. You'll decide against it. I don't want that to happen. You need this right now. It'll be a huge benefit for you and your company. Now, okay, so I answered your objection. That's like saying why you shouldn't think about it, but that's not accomplishing anything because here's the truth. I want to think about it as a smokescreen for I'm not certain. So if I
Mm.
want to really accomplish anything, I'm going to say what I just said and say, in fact, let me say this. The true beauty is, and I loop back and I'm going to actually present and make him more certain.
Take them from a 5 to an
I
8 or
use the
8 to 10.
objection as an opportunity to create more certainty for each of the three tens, and if
Mm.
necessary, lower the action threshold, add on pain, and transition to a close. That's looping.
Wow.
And it
Looping.
just works like you never see it. And when it does it, initially we engage in a process called deflection, which means I wouldn't if I ask for the order for the first time and someone says, "Oh wow, it sounds good. Let me think about it."
Mhm.
I'm not going to say, "Jim, I'm doing this for a long time, and I know that you want to think about it, and but the best decisions are made when everything is fresh." I'm not going to go there. I'm going to say, "I hear what you're saying, Jim. So like I hear what you're saying. We're still in rapport here, but
Yep.
let me ask you a question. Like, does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea? That means, does the first 10 make sense to you?
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, I understand you want to think. I get that, and I hear what you're saying,
Mhm.
but let me ask you this: like money aside, but I don't say that. It's my tonality. Does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea?
Yep.
And he'll say, "Yeah, it sounds pretty good." Now, where is that on the certainty scale? It's like a 6 or 7. It's not a 10. So I say, exactly. I match his tone. I match his level of certainty. It really is a great program. In fact, let me say this. And now I'm going to actually add more benefits on and raise his level of. You get it? That's what's going on.
Wow. So when you do that, when you identify where
Yeah.
they lacking a 10
Mm.
on a product, salesperson, or company, you loop back in, build the certainty, get them to the 10, and then keep rolling. And one of the things that I've heard you say to salespeople globally is, which I love, but I don't hear a lot of, is from other sales experts, is like, you preach getting to the damn point and don't waste time bullshitting about the weather when you're going through your pitch to anyone. Just get to the point. Like, can you explain, when you're pitching and teaching thousands of salespeople to pitch, your best secrets there for sales pitching or straight line pitching?
Just that vein, remember that real rapport is not based on like, oh my God, you like fishing? I like fishing.
Mhm.
That comes later. So you have to make sure there's a big difference between how you handle a client versus how you handle a prospect. And also, by the way, are you in really high ticket sales? And what people say is high ticket sales these days, like in some of these charlatans online, like I teach you, I'm a high ticket closer.
Yeah.
That's not
All the people in
2,000.
the
I'm
funnels and
talking about
whatnot.
like a $5 million contract with Grumman. I mean, as long or a
Totally different. Yeah.
$400,000 contract with a business that has 8 decision makers and 5 integrators that have to. That's a different story where
Mhm.
the rules are somewhat different here. I'm talking about for the average person that's going out there and engaging in these transactional sales with shorter sales cycles under 30 days, let's say, right?
Yep.
The big mistake that people make is they think that rapport is about, oh my God, you like fishing? I like fishing. You like golf? I like golf, right? Well, while it's great if just by coincidence there's a commonality, it's not going to get you very far. And far more powerful for getting into rapport is asking great questions.
Like discovery or gathering
Asking people's
intelligence.
questions, and then as they answer, use your active listening to show people that you care, that you understand, you feel their pain, and that is how you truly build rapport. So this whole thing of, all the song and dance of trying to like befriend someone to close them in certain instances with very long sales cycles and big ticket, real, not the bullshit, real
Yep.
big ticket. Yeah, some of that goes on as important,
Mhm.
and you have to be a rainmaker also, like these big advertising agencies. If
Yeah.
you're going after if you're
Publicis,
going after ad
WPP.
accounts at Coca-Cola or something, you're gonna have to do some hand holding and schmoozing and whining and dining. No doubt about
Yep.
that. Okay. But within that context is far more powerful is asking great questions and knowing that when they answer, they know you're listening and you care. So the rules are changed from these bigger, long sales cycle things. And I go through that in my trainings. But for most people, 95+% of salespeople, this whole delaying and dragging it out is a disaster, especially in the ADD world we live in right now,
Right.
where you're lucky enough to get someone for 5 minutes.
When you were teaching, the thousands of salespeople, how did you teach them to ask these great questions, these discovery, this intelligence gathering to move them along this straight line?
Well, I taught them. The thing was, so I taught them every day. It's like it was back then. It was
Oh
just
yeah, the day in the life. What was the day in the life
well, it
like?
was just I train them twice a day. So it was by default they were getting it all the time. Um, Now it's different because I'm not in everyone's face. But I've formalized training programs.
Mhm.
The key to the whole thing is to really script out your process. You need to script out your sale before it happens. You just do. And if you don't do that, you're just really you're selling yourself so short. You're making your life so much more complicated than it has to be. I think the reason people don't do it is they think it's impossible.
Mm.
Like, if you've thought about it, how could I possibly script out a sales conversation? There's just too many things they can say, too many ways it can go. And that's true if they're in control.
Right.
But what if you're in control? If you're in control of the encounter, then you can actually start the script. See, everything changes once you're in control of the sale. So that was the key to the straight line was learning how to take immediate control.
In the first 4 seconds,
Yeah, and
right?
once that happens, then all these great things can happen after that.
Amazing. And when you're going through the presentation, you had mentioned
I got about 5 minutes and I gotta
okay,
roll.
you, stopping points. So you basically present the benefit and you go through the product salesperson.
Stopping off points is just when I talk about stopping off points. What I'm saying is what you never want to be is a talking head who just talks while the person sits there and listens. You want to have these points in your presentation where you're going to ask a question, you're going to check in with the prospect, make sure they agree with you so far. You're getting what are called micro agreements. Now, I know in some sales training programs they teach you about, these sort of like, this consistency of getting the prospect into the habit of saying yes, 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 and so there's test closing,
Mm,
but for the most part, it's a bunch of bullshit. You have to do it. You do it, but not for the reasons. What you're not going to trick someone into saying yes. That's not what it's about. And that's I laugh when I read that in some of these, really weird sales trainings. Like, we want to get the prospect saying yes again and again so that when we ask for it, they'll say yes. People are not that stupid. Now, obviously, you don't want them saying no, no, no,
right.
but it's really not about, you're not trying to get them to say yes. So if they give you 7 yeses, then they'll say yes because they're in the habit of saying yes. What you're looking to do is to make sure that you're building an airtight, logical case and make sure that you haven't lost the person yet. Because any confusion they're not going to buy. Any overwhelm, they're not
Any
going to buy.
confusion on this
So
straight
what you
line.
try to do is people digesting things in bite-sized chunks. It's like, check, they got that. That's a building block. Then I move on to my next building block. So it's
Mm.
really more about that than trying to convince someone to say yes 7 times and poof, they just get to say yes because they're in hypnosis. It just doesn't work.
Wow. And the day in the life of you managing the sales team. So you said you train them, like walk us through it, the pinnacle height of the mass transaction, $50 billion in stock sales. Like you would come in what at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. Like what was the day in the life like of
Oh,
Jordan Belfort?
well, wake up at
Yeah,
5
aside from the
a.m.
drugs and partying,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Like sales specific,
Sales
right?
specific. All right. So wake up at 5 a.m. Drop
Which is
5
less
loots.
fun, right?
All right. Sales specific. I get to the office 8:30, have a meeting from 9 to 9:20 in the morning, maybe 9:30 at the latest. And and the meeting is a mixture of motivation and skills training. I always mix the two together, get them going. And then, the company was layered. So I had like 10, 20, 30, 50 managers, just like, managing groups, like, one guy managing 10. It was very well organized like that. And if at any moment in time I felt the energy was not high enough, I'd actually stop and give another meeting and pump them back up.
Wow.
And then again, they'd break for lunch at about 12, 12:30. Everyone had 1 hour to go out for lunch and get wasted as hell. but when you came back, you had to be as sharp as a tack again, right? And then they worked till about 4 till the market closed, 4:30. Then we give another meeting for another 20 minutes or so. Pump them up for that day, teach them more stuff, till what happened, and then everyone would go back to work and call late, and then repeat the process again and again and again. And going on in the room would break out all day long. There was so much going. It was like crazy. It was thousands of people. So it was all these different mini trainings going on with managers training their staffs and all this sort of stuff. There was inductions going on for new people. There was an area of 500 new people in the back. They were just just calling
This is insane.
Yeah,
amazing. So to wrap up the interview, your number one top sales secret. So if you go back in time and you want to do 100 billion or 500 billion or, $1 trillion, like what would be the one sales secret that you want to share with the audience that would completely change the game, revolutionize maximizing revenue, increasing sales, and making more money today? What would that be?
It depends on what you're selling. I mean, learning how to manage the first 4 seconds of the sale for sure is a big one. Just learning the right tonality, the right words to say in the first 4 seconds to get past that initial negative reaction of, "God damn, another salesman calling." That's a big one. So there's certain ways, there's certain distinct patterns you can use, language patterns and tonalities that essentially short circuit the logical mind and allow you to speak directly to their unconscious mind and be positioned as an expert. And by doing that, you can take control of the conversation. That's a big one.
Wow. Jordan Belfort, everyone, the Wolf of Wall Street. Jordan, where can everyone learn from you, connect with you? And also, you've got this whole programming that breaks down play by play the straight line selling system.
About a year ago, I took the straight line. I had a system out there that was an online system, and I massively upgraded for the corporate market.
Awesome.
So that's like the core of my business right now. Really, is big companies and mediums and smalls. Do they buy licenses and they go through this online training, which is interactive, meaning I'm actually asking you questions as you're going through the training. There's an algorithm that modifies what you see based on your answers. It's a really powerful learning platform. So that is a huge part of my business. If you go to my Instagram, just hit 1 million followers over the weekend, which is great. It's nice, huge, right?
Follow them on Instagram.
Yeah, and then you can see in the Instagram bio, you'll see a link to like some of my products, and there's free products, there's paid products. The free products are great. The paid products are obviously 1,000 times better. Whichever one works for you, God bless you. Just as long as you get the knowledge. I believe that human beings, they have this weird thing that they'll invest more money in their pets than they will in themselves. Like you buy your dog great stuff. Do you invest in yourself? I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like the skills that it's the knowledge that you possess, it's the skills that you own that are going to separate you from the people around you. So just, good Lord, why go through life not being an expert communicator? Because if you're not, you're making things 10 times harder than they have to be, whether it's in raising money, negotiating, closing a deal, getting late, it doesn't matter. Being a closer, being a communicator extraordinaire is going to make you a more effective, more empowered human being and make you happy as hell in the process.
Amazing. And where can people, what's the website to
JordanBelfort.com, Instagram, Wolf of Wall Street. You can't miss it.
Awesome. Amazing. Jordan, thank you so much for the time today. And for everyone tuning in, we're going to have Jordan sign a few books that we're giving away. You have to go and follow this episode, this YouTube, the podcast, and then you can pick up a copy of Jordan's chapter in the book at secretsalesbook.com, secretsalesbook.com, secretsalesbook.com. So Jordan's going to sign a few books. We're going to give them away on LinkedIn to the millions of followers. All you have to do is like and tag 3 of your friends in the live video interview, and we will make sure that you are locked and loaded. Thank you so much, everyone. And stay tuned for more episodes on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, you name it, anywhere where there is any content. Talk soon.